Okay, are we recording? Yes. Welcome to section number 1, Eco 501, week number 2 discussion class. Before we start, before we started the recording, I asked if anybody else from the other section is here. 2 or 3 people may be here, no problem. If you've missed your class in one section or for whatever reason, you can definitely attend in the other section because I'll be repeating myself. And before we start, and another person was saying that they didn't get an email. Probably you registered late. So I'll look into your problem later. So first of all, as we start, can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. So this is what is it? Okay, yes. So this week, what we'll do, we'll just briefly mention what we covered in the last week, which was basically a week for us to get introduced with everybody. Part 2 is a BRAC University and my student honor code. We received an email regarding ethics and ethical practices. So I thought it would be good that I share it with you. Part 3 will be what is managerial economics and what is the definition of economics. Some of you over here already did economics before coming here, either that was in your school, college, or even your undergrad. And some of you haven't done economics at all. That doesn't matter because most of the stuff that we will be doing in this course are basically common sense, application of common sense. And if you have done economics before, you no problem, you can see the same thing second time. When you see it, you will see it in a better light. Part 4 are the 4 or 5 concepts that we mentioned last week that we will try to look at in detail this week. Part 5 are some other things that are relevant to the course and also relevant to today's discussion. So this is basically what we did. Oh, I've already mentioned this. Oh, yes. Another thing is we introduced the Facebook group and I asked everybody to add to it. Probably, is there anybody here today who hasn't added to the Facebook group?
So I've sent you a request. Can you add me in Facebook group?
You sent a request how much? 20 minutes ago? Did you send the request 20 minutes ago? Arif Razak Dhrubo.
Yes, sir.
When did you send the request?
Yes, I have.
When did you send it? How long ago? Anyhow, your profile is locked. There's nothing in your profile. So I asked you to send your student ID. You check your messenger inbox. Check your messenger inbox. I'll look at your problem later. I also have a YouTube channel, the BRAC University.
Okay. I will discuss at the end of the class.
Sure. And I have a YouTube channel. Is there anybody who hasn't seen the YouTube channel? You don't have to subscribe to it, but have you seen the channel? Everybody here has seen the channel?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I am also subscribed.
Sorry?
Sir, I subscribe.
Okay, no problem. If you subscribe, great. If you don't subscribe, no problem. But if you subscribe, you get the updates. Next
sir,
thing.
I haven't seen it, sir. I missed the last class. I think I mailed you.
You mailed me. Did you get the course outline?
I'm not sure, sir. I don't think so because I usually check my mail regularly.
If you don't check your mail regularly, you won't be updated. I must have sent you the course
No,
outline.
sir. I check my mail regularly. So if you had sent it, I would have seen it.
Okay.
I'll check again, sir, and let you know.
Okay, lovely. I've sent an email to everybody that whose list I have from the office, and in that email I sent the course outline. I sent some texts, etc. So please check your email. If you haven't got it, you can send me an email. I'll send it again, and then we just briefly discuss what topics we'll cover now. So before we start anything, this is the email that I got. Well, not me. All of us got it. 1, 2, 3 are exactly what BRAC University sent us. And this is just a little honor code. We're going to make a gentleman's handshake that I will not cheat, use unfair means, join intentionally or unintentionally, any online or offline group in which exam answers are posted or discussed, or engage in any behavior that would be commonly deemed to be academically unethical. Number 2, I will notify the course teacher of any such activity or online or offline groups that I become aware of. Number 3, I acknowledge that I may be suspended or expelled from BRAC University if I am found to have engaged in any academically unethical behavior. So I'm stopping the share now. The objective of this email was because this last 2 or 3 semesters were online due to COVID, so there wasn't any face-to-face contact. So some people may have taken advantage of the system. So that's why they sent us this email. So I've read it out to you. So what I'm going to do, we're going to make a gentleman's handshake. I trust you, you trust me. Okay. So we all have made a gentleman's handshake. So if you have any problem, no problem, that can be solved. But please don't give any lame excuses, because now comes my student honor code, and then you'll understand why I'm saying this. Where is it? So my student honor code is that probably this semester will be online from beginning to end. In the last semester, we thought that it would be half online, and maybe we could take the midterm exams face to face. We couldn't take the midterm exams or the final exams face to face. So it was 100% online. Probably it will be 100% online this semester as well. This implies that all the assessments will be online assessments. Online assessments means that I'm going to give you an assignment. Say I'll give it today. You will get 7 days within which to submit. If you submit at the last moment and then you find that your computer has crashed, okay, you don't have any data or something, this and that, that will be very difficult to accept. So I will be giving take-home assignments. I will give, say, at end of this week. Submission will be before the class of the next week. So the 7 days should be a good enough time, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I and also everybody else, we all appreciate that many of you are working people, so you also have to work. But the thing is, you also have to coordinate with these deadlines. But the deadlines will be flexible. Flexible in the sense, it's not that I'm going to give it now, you submit within 2 hours, etc. There will be enough time. Now, each assignment should be maximum 2 pages of type, maximum. Sometimes I might even ask you to write only 1 page. So if I ask you to write 1 page, how many paragraphs can you write? 4 paragraphs normally?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
4, maximum 5. You can't write more than that. So if I ask you to write 2 pages type, it'll be something like that, 7 or 8 or 9 paragraphs maximum. So whatever I ask you to write, they will be very small, maybe 500 to maximum 1000 words. After that, I'm going to check all your assignments for plagiarism. Let me stop sharing now. Last semester, what happened when I gave the first assignment, I requested everybody to try to be as honest as possible. Now, some people don't attend classes because it's online, and it's impossible for me to monitor who's attending and who's not attending. So some people submitted their assignments, and the plagiarism was highly unacceptable. Okay, so I returned it back. After that, from assignment 2, more or less everybody tried to write on their own. Okay, so there's nothing to worry about. Just try to convince me and the plagiarism detecting that you wrote it on your own. Okay, next what I'm going to do, where is it?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Sure.
Sir, I have gone through the outline. There is mentioned that we are going to have attendance. We are going to have marks on attendance. So
okay. Your name is Salman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I missed the first class. I'm the late advising.
Okay, no problem. I'll answer your question just after, before I get to the next slide. Okay. The attendance part I'm going to discuss. Thanks for the question. I'm answering in a while. So after the assignments I gave, suppose this is a class of 50 people. Throughout the semester, I'm going to take oral assessments of you guys. That means, for example, I give assignment 1, then I declare that these are the 10 or 12 people I will talk to orally. Then in assignment 2, I'll talk to the next 10, 12, or 15. So throughout the semester, everybody will be assessed orally at least once. And this assessment will be counted as an assignment. Okay? I can't assess all 50 in one shot.
Okay, sir.
That's difficult for me. That's also difficult for you guys. But what I'm going to do throughout the semester, I'll break the class into 3 or 4 groups, and then this assignment I assess this group, next assignment I assess this group orally, and these will be done throughout the semester. And just 2 minutes, we just discuss and that's it. We might even discuss anything you're having trouble with the course. Okay, now Mr. Salman, he asked about the attendance.
Yes, sir.
It's clearly written in the course outline that attendance is 5%. Now that assessment, assumption was made on the basis that we meet face to face. Now, when it's an online class, if I want to take assessment, my life will be hell. Okay, I won't be able to take your assessment. That's why I said at the beginning, we're having a gentleman's handshake. I expect that you guys will attend the discussion classes. You will see the uploaded videos, but I can't take attendance because it's not humanly possible for me to do that. If we meet face to face, say 3 weeks or 4 weeks in the semester, then I'll take the attendance, physical attendance. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
But because I can take assessment attendance even now, but if I take attendance, for example, Mr. Salman asked me this question. The moment I'm taking attendance, Bachelor Salman's net connection got disconnected. Okay, and then he'll be sad that when you called everybody's name, I was disconnected for whatever reason. Okay, so that's why I'm not going to take attendance. Okay, if we meet face to face, if the situation improves to that situation, then I'll take attendance. Okay, now finally, before we go to the next part, that is some of our friends over here are from outside Bangladesh. Who are our foreign friends here today? Our foreign friends?
Yes, sir, I'm here, sir.
Okay, Lydia Philip,
Yes, sir.
she's not from Bangladesh. Anybody else?
Nahid Mushtaq.
Nahid Mushtaq, okay, she's not from Bangladesh. Anybody else? Okay, there's another 2 or 3. They're not here. That's why I'm going to speak in English as much as possible. However, for the Bangla speaking population, if you find my English, not understandable, so you can stop me. I'll speak in Bangla for 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes, and then I'll go back to English. So I'll predominantly speak in English, but if necessary, I will talk in Bangla for everything. And our foreign friends, by this end of the semester, we hope that you can say some basic conversations in Bangla. It's always good to know a language. Okay, so now we get back to our slide sharings. We've done this. Second part is, what is managerial economics? Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, a definition.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Thank you. Every course, every topic has a definition of some sort. Over here, you're going to see concepts of managerial economics. In another course, you see concepts of other topics. But every definition has a common thread. What's the common thread? The common thread is a definition will give you some key words, key topics within the definition. Then what we will try to do, we will try to link those keywords to write a meaningful sentence, a sentence that makes sense. Once we can do that, then whether we present the course with mathematics, it doesn't matter. We've kept to the actual philosophical content of the definition. Where if somebody says, no, I don't understand mathematics, I'm very bad at mathematics, but I understand how to read a graph. If I can see something visually, I can comprehend. No problem. You express it in with graphs. If somebody says I want to do some with topology, I'm extremely good in mathematics. Okay, you do it with topology. So this definition that we let me stop share. So basically, when we look at a definition, we'll try to identify the keywords, whatever those keywords are. Then we will try to find a sequence in those keywords so that we can write a meaningful sentence. If we can get to this part, this stage, identifying the keywords and writing a meaningful sentence, by that time 60 to 70% of the concept will already be conquered most of the times. So let's look at our definition over here. What do we have? Managerial economics is a branch of applied economics, okay, that uses tools and techniques to enable business managers to make decisions. What are the keywords here? Number one, it's an applied branch of economics. Number two, we're looking at business managers. Number three, we're looking how these business managers make decisions. Can anybody identify these three concepts? It's an applied branch of economics. It looks at business managers. It looks at how business managers make decisions. Is there anything else written or any important topic written in this definition that I failed to mention? Let me review myself again. Applied branch of economics, number one. Business managers, number two. Number three, how business managers make decisions. Is there anything apart from this?
Hello, sir. So
Yeah.
I think tools and
Environment, sir.
No, tools are from applied branch of economics. Okay. So tools is a subtopic. Which,
tools and techniques. I want
tools
to
and
say
techniques,
tools
yeah.
and techniques.
Tools and technique that
Sir.
will follow. Yes, Lydia.
How about the environment, sir?
Okay. Government we'll talk about later. Government. Okay. I'll talk about the government in the definition of economics.
No, I'm talking about the environment. Environment.
Oh, environment.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, sir.
oh no. Environment is the environment that decision maker finds themselves in. And we are not interested in environment as environmental science. Over here, there's a business manager. How does the business manager make a decision? Using tools from economics. Okay.
And the environment is actually affecting the decision-making process, I guess.
Yes, and the environment doesn't mean global warming. Environment means if the prices go up, how do people respond? If the government imposes a tax, how do people respond? If technology isn't available, how do people respond? This is how we will define the environment. Okay. Is that clear, Lydia?
Yes, sir. Very clear.
Okay, great. Now the next question is, what is an applied branch? What is an applied branch and what is a theoretical branch?
Sir,
Yes, Saraf.
sir, I'm losing fun. Actually, I am joined with my daughter's ID. Sorry, I will fix it from tomorrow.
Oh, no problem. You fix it. Can you? Are you attending the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. We'll fix it. You'll fix it. No problem. This can happen.
Sir,
Okay.
I think applied managerial economics. I think this is microeconomics.
Yes, I'm going to come to it later as well. Yes, answer is yes. I'll focus on that later. Okay. It will be mentioned at the end of the class. Is that your baby?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Hug dio. Give him or her a hug.
Oh, so definitely I will, sir.
Okay, lovely. So where were we? Let me see. Oh, applied branch.
Applied branch.
Okay, so every technical subject has a theoretical branch and it has an applied branch. For example, if you go to mathematics, you will see sometimes they are discussing things that has no relationship with the real world. At the same time, you will also find a group of mathematicians who are taking tools from mathematics and applying it to the real world. For example, probability. You must have done some kind of probability in your undergrad, all of you.
Yes, sir.
So what is probability? Probability is actually an applied branch of mathematics. They use techniques of mathematics and they apply it to some real world applications. There's another applied branch of mathematics called game theory, which we will try to look at in this course. So game theory, it's a theoretical development that happened within mathematics. Later on, people found out that it has lots of applications in the real world. So our economics is not theoretical economics that has no relationship with the real world, but is very interesting from a philosophical point of view. The branch of mathematics or the branch of economics that we are going to look at is the theoretical concepts. We'll look at them, then we will try to see how they are applied in the real world. This is not an economics department course. People here are from different backgrounds. So our our objective will be not to learn the techniques, to learn the techniques definitely, but to see its applications in the real world. Now let me get back to the, okay. So next question is, why are we using tools from economics? Finance people will say, oh yeah, we can use this, we can apply finance tools. People from psychology, they can say, oh, we can use behavioral tools. Yes, we can use many tools. But the thing is, the science of decision making was first rigorously discussed by people from economics. There are lots of problems with their analysis, but since they discussed it in the beginning, some of those techniques stood the test of time. So they established themselves to be extremely useful. That's why we will be using tools from economics. Okay.
So I am from finance background, and
Okay.
for
Yeah, carry on.
example, so for example, when we learn time value of money, so I thought, oh, this is from finance. But when I studied economics, I found out actually time value of money is actually, it was first researched and understood in economics.
And the
then
problem
it was adopted by finance.
The thing is, economics is the mother subject. I mean, I shouldn't be saying like this. Like mathematics is the mother subject in science. Everybody takes tools from mathematics and then they apply it in physics, in other branches. Okay. So in the social sciences, when we talk about theoretical and applicable knowledge, where most of them came from economics, but that's why we will be focusing on methods that we get from economics. Now, this I think we discussed in the previous week, that we have people in the class who have done economics in their O-level, A-level, or maybe in the undergrad. So some of you or many of you will be familiar with lots of the concepts that we will be introducing. Those of you who haven't done economics, like I said at the beginning of today's discussion class, you don't have to worry, because many of the techniques here is going to be very simple techniques, and we are going to use all common sense. For example, if the price increases, how do households respond? How do firms respond? We don't need to know economics to understand this. If the government imposes taxes, how does that affect decision making of households? How does that affect decision making of firms? We don't need economics to understand this thing. So many of the topics that we are going to look at will be actually common sense applications in real world examples. Now, this we have to do for the sake of doing.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, who is the father of economics? Adam Smith?
Adam Smith, yes, but economics doesn't have a mother because Adam Smith never married.
Sir?
Okay, he was a bachelor, a happy bachelor. He didn't marry, so he's considered to be the father of economics, but there's no mother of economics because he didn't marry. And actually, what things that Adam Smith did 400 years before Adam Smith, there was a person from Morocco. His name is Ibn Khaldun.
Ibn Khaldun.
Okay, so
yeah, sir, Ibn Khaldun is a Muslim thinker.
Yes, he was from Morocco, and
Yeah.
he spent some time in Andalus, and he was around everywhere. So
Yeah.
he wrote a lot of things, which later on the people in Europe, starting from Adam Smith and also a little bit before him, they started to rediscover. So
Yeah.
nowadays, the modern thought is that the actual founder of economics or sociology is Ibn Khaldun.
So as we say, means coming from Muslim thinker as well as means theory as sociological perspective.
Sociology, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
On the means of values, norms, how to deal with community, and means
And also how to
totally.
look at history from a scientific point of view.
Yeah, I learned from University of St. Jamshid, Hyderabad, Pakistan.
Oh, okay, good. So you're familiar with Ibn Khaldun.
Ibn Khaldun.
Okay, if we ever have a time outside this course, we'll discuss. Okay.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. So where were we? Oh, now we go to the definition of economics. Okay, so this definition is not a good definition, but since we are following the text of Stiglitz and Walsh, this is how they defined in page number 4. Again, we're going to
question. Today watch video and all slides. Try to learn. Try and find a question. So what is the specific tools of economics? How we means try to find to means more effective to learn as means micro or macro.
Okay, another person asked me about micro and macro. I will be answering that covering this topic at the end of today's lecture. Okay.
Okay, sir.
I'm another lady. She asked me about micro macro. I'll be doing that one as well then.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so again, our technique in to understand a definition is try to identify the keywords, then try to link the keywords through a coherent logic. If we let me read this definition. Economics studies how individuals, firms, government, and other organizations. So we have some institutions here. And the institutions can be divided into 2 parts. Number 1, it can be individuals. Or if we look at the other things, firms, they're a group. Government, that's a collective group. Other organizations, what do we mean by other organizations? We can talk about NGOs, okay? We can talk about universities as a group, BRACU University and other universities in Dhaka or Bangladesh, okay? So we are looking at how individuals or a group are making decisions. Does anybody understand this by just reading this much? We're looking at something where decisions are being made by somebody or a group of people. Is that what you understand from this? 1 second, please. Somebody's come. Okay, so is that what we understand from this definition? Let's get back. Somebody came and disturbed me. Economics is a science that studies decision making. Is that what we understand from this highlighted area? Are people listening to what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is a science where we discuss decision making, and this decision making is done by 2 groups of people. Either I myself as a consumer, or I myself as a farm, as a producer.
Yes, sir.
Or-
I think this is a microeconomics
Yeah.
by definition.
Yeah, now I think you've got your answer by now. So, and once we make a decision, we will also be, the decision science will also be trying to analyze the consequences of a decision. Okay, so the keywords here are individuals, firms, governments, and others. That means individual or a group. Somebody, they're making choices. So our first question is, how is a choice made? How is a decision made? This is what we will try to ask ourselves in all the topics and all the phenomenon that we will try to cover. And what is the consequence of these choices? Stiglitz and Walsh, in their analysis, have said that society's uses of resources, this we can keep flexible and change over time. That's not a problem. But the thing is, so if we link the words, what determines the choice? That means what is the method or the time-tested method to make a choice? What are the consequences of the choice? So these are the two things that we will be looking at. So economics, we are defining economics as a science of decision making. Now, the problem with economics is that economics, if we define it as the decision of decision making science, some people will be asking, what about macroeconomics? What about inflation? What about GDP? Okay, that's another branch of economics. So some of you, two of you who have already asked whether we are focusing on micro or macro, I think you've got your answer now. This course will be looking at economics as a decision-making science. So we want to see how decisions are made and what are its consequences. This totally excludes other major branches of economics, which is macroeconomics. So managerial economics is in its essence applied microeconomics. So if you have done a basic economics course, you must be familiar with microeconomics, and this will be an applied microeconomics course. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Lovely. So, okay, now we come to the next part. These four concepts, I'm not going to discuss distribution. It's not relevant, although it's mentioned in the book, but we will have to discuss a little bit of it. These are the four concepts that we want to look at today. Number one is trade-offs. Now, if you've done an economics course before, you will automatically think that trade-offs is related to opportunity cost. Is there anybody here who thinks that trade-offs is related to opportunity cost?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Those of you who haven't heard the word opportunity cost, we start with trade-offs. We ask ourselves, why does a trade-off arise? Once it arises, how do I confront it as a decision maker? Now, when we talk about science as a decision-making science, what we are essentially what we are doing is we don't know what the outcome of a decision before making a decision. Let me repeat myself again. We are looking at economics as a decision-making science, but we do not know what will happen once we make the decision. For example, before you came to BRAC, did you know beforehand whether this was a good choice or a bad choice?
No, sir.
Nobody will never know.
No, sir.
Once you've come to BRAC, you've spent 1 or 2 semesters, then you can tell whether this was a good decision or bad decision. But you can tell that after you enter a new environment. When you made the decision, you confronted one environment. After you made the decision, you confront another environment. This is how we are going to look at the concept of trade-off. We're making a decision under one particular environment. Once we've made the decision, that particular environment is gone. We enter a new environment. Then we confront new problems. The second concept, let me just summarize before we get into details. Incentives. If we use the word incentives, do you identify with the word disincentive? If we use the word incentives, do you identify with the word disincentive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means
No, sir.
no. Who said no?
Sir, me.
Achha, why do you think? Why don't you identify?
No, sir. I mean, I understand the words; they're opposites, but I don't understand how.
Okay. Now,
in terms of economics application.
Okay, let me change the word now. Let me use some very simple thing.
Sir, inspiring.
Yeah. That is that when we find ourselves in an environment, we are encouraged to do something, discouraged to do something, right? For example, we talked
Oh,
about
yes, sir. No,
ethical
I get it.
practice. Okay, so that ethical practice has been said at the beginning of today's discussion class in order to discourage everybody from indulging into certain activities. This is disincentives. What is
Like
an
new
incentive?
tax on tobacco.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay, anything that encourages us to do something is an incentive within the environment we find ourselves in. Anything that discourages us to do something is a disincentive.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so and if we think about from a physics point of view, incentive means to pull forward, go forward if we are moving horizontally. Incentive means to go up if we are moving on the vertical axis, and disincentives will just be the opposite. Okay, if this is a graph, the horizontal axis, what type of movement is this? Positive or negative?
Sir, positive.
That means if we see a variable move like this, we see that he's finding an incentive to move, right? Horizontally.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if we see that a variable is moving like this, isn't the variable finding a disincentive?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, that's it. So if we are using the word incentive, but we will also be looking at what creates disincentive as well. Then we have another axis, the y-axis. If you see that a variable is moving like this, is it an incentive or a disincentive? It's moving up.
Incentive.
Incentive.
Okay, great. And if we are calculating along the vertical axis and you see something falling down, it's a disincentive or incentive?
Disincentive.
But that's it. You see,
Disincentive.
you don't need to know mathematics to understand these things. These are very basic things. Exchange means a good
Sir,
or a,
Sir, I
yes,
have a question. So that's mean incentives, economics are one kind of financial economics or financial motivation like this?
motivation, yes, but it doesn't have to be financial all the time. It's a motivation.
But actually, it is actually influencing our decision-making process, right?
It's influencing. If it influences positively, we say that it's incentive. If it influences negatively, we say it's disincentive. After that, you use whatever jargon you like. If you want to say encourage, discourage, okay, no problem. If you want to say inspire, dispire, no problem. Okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah, carry on.
So the negative, is it part of incentive or disincentive?
Negative will definitely be disincentive.
Okay.
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 Okay. So,
Sir, means currency of the behavior change or mean incentive, yeah, types of induce.
can you kindly repeat yourself?
Sir, gratuity of behavior change or trend of induced behavior.
Oh, I see. Induced or not induced, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you mentioning the matter from health economics? So from medical point of view, induced?
As perspective, sir, the sociological economics.
Okay. The thing is, induced means something from outside is influencing your decision making. Okay. For example, if you start taking blood pressure drugs for your own good, after some time, supply will create its demand. How? Your demand will be induced because you're taking drugs all the time. Your body will start demanding those blood pressure drugs, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the induced demand. We won't be looking at these things in this course. Okay.
Sure.
Acha. Now, exchange is nothing but something moving from one hand to another. It moves from one person or one body to another person or another body. Our analysis is based on a market setting. So we have a group of buyers, we have a group of sellers. Seller's objective is to sell, buyer's objective is to buy. So when there's a transaction, that's also known as an exchange. But what we are going to look at is what are the ideal characteristics of a particular exchange. Okay, what are the ideal characteristics of a particular exchange? And if those ideal characteristics don't hold, what problems will arise? Next is information. I'm going to go to them in detail. Information means, okay, before you came to this course, now that you're in the course, we all know what the rules of the game is, right? The course outline and also
Yes, sir.
discussion last week and maybe the beginning of this week, we have mentioned the rules of the game. So as a teacher, I am fully aware of what the rules of the game are. As a participant of this course, you are also fully aware of the rules of the game, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Same
sir.
thing happens with cricket, or same thing happens with football. When we play, when two teams meet, they all know that, okay, if I do this, I'll get a penalty, and if I do this, I'll get a white ball, I'll get a no ball. Okay, so white balls and no balls are what? Disincentives, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You try not to bowl a no ball, you try not to bowl a white ball. Okay, so if both parties have the same set of information about the quality of the product, what happens? We'll look at it later. If one of the two parties has more information about the quality of the product, what may happen? If the second thing arises, buyers know more than the sellers, or sellers know more than the buyers, then will that market sustain? We'll look at it today. And distribution is, when we use the word distribution, do we analyze it as the activity of one person over activity of quite a few people when we talk about distribution?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sir,
Income distribution. Use the word distribution. Distribution is actually, it indicates behavior of many people. In a market, there are lots of buyers, there are lots of sellers. Okay. Distribution means, what is the distribution of wealth? In a market, if I have money, I have or I have access to income, I have the ability to buy a good. How do we analyze this? This is the last topic that we'll look at in this section. Okay. So before we start, let me just summarize again. Trade-offs is the foundation of decision making. We analyze what trade-offs is and why does it arise. Incentives is the environment that encourages us to do something. It can also discourage us to do something. Exchanges, something will move from one hand to another. What are the criteria? What are the characteristics of a good exchange? If those criteria or characteristics don't hold, what problems can arise? Information, buyers and sellers are two groups. Do they have the same set of information? If yes, why do we like it? If not, what problems may arise? Finally, the distribution of wealth. Is it acceptable or not? If it's acceptable, nobody has to poke their nose into the market. If it's not acceptable, then what do we do? This we won't discuss in this course, but it's nice to know. Okay, so the first.
so I have a question, please.
Just a second. Yes,
Okay.
carry on.
Yeah. On that trade-off, sir, do we always experience scarcity
Yes.
when okay when more in one region should be a negative in another? Do we always experience scarcity?
Mm-hmm. Scarcity is just the topic that we are going to discuss now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So you asked at the right time. Okay. Trade-off arises because of scarcity. Trade-off means, if I want more of something, I have to sacrifice something of something else. This is the trade-off. I have to make a sacrifice in order to get a benefit. Trade-off will arise in all type of our transactions on the market. If I want a bottle of Coke, I have to sacrifice, say, 15 taka. If I want to go on a trip somewhere outside Dhaka, I have to sacrifice money and time. If I sacrifice money and time, then I can get the benefit of having a trip in this rainy season. I can go to one of the big rivers, and I can take the nice river air in. I can come back home. I'm happy, but I have to spend money and time, right?
Yes, sir.
So the concept of trade-off is for every benefit, we have to sacrifice something. Now let me make it a little bit easier. Benefits and cost. If I want a benefit, I have to pay a cost. If I want utility, I have to spend money. If I want profit, I have to bear some costs. So the foundation of choice is based on scarcity. If there was no scarcity, then we would not have to worry about making a decision. We have all experienced that type of decision when we were in our mother's womb, before we were born. Did we have to worry about anything when we were in our mother's womb?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
That was the
No.
heaven on earth. That's the only time of our life when we are experiencing a heaven on earth, when we're in our mother's womb. The moment we come to the world, a child starts shouting. Why? Because the umbilical cord has been torn, and the oxygen supply has gone. It's no longer coming from the mother's womb. So what does the child do? The child shouts, the child tries to fight to gain oxygen. Okay, that similar concept is that if everything is life like in our mother's womb, we don't have to worry about anything. All our needs are met automatically. But in the real world, our needs are not met automatically. That's why there are many dimensions of scarcity, but we will look at scarcity in three dimensions. Number one, our resources are limited. Resources of a household means household's income is limited. Okay, so we have a limited income. For the farm's resources are also limited. Number two, technology is limited. Technology means for a household, the skills are limited, right? I have a certain type of skill. You have another certain type of skill. Maybe I'm better than you in one part, but even then, my skills are limited. Similarly, if we look at a producer at a farm, their skills are also limited. So the second thing is dimension of scarcity is technology. The third one is our time. Time is limited means are we looking at a time frame of 1 hour, or are we looking at a time frame of say 1 day? Let me give you an example. If we go to some restaurant during a festival season, many of these restaurants give special offers. Okay, you can have as many pizza, you buy your pizza, but the drink is free. Have you seen this type of offer in a pizza joint?
Yes, sir.
You pay for each piece of pizza, you pay whatever the price is, but the drink is free. Have you noticed? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just because it's free, does that mean that I can take a tank, a tank that has 500 that can carry 5,000 liters of liquid, and I tell them, okay, you give me, I'll buy the pizzas, you give me 5,000 liters of Coke, I'll drink it later on when I go back home. Is that possible?
No, sir.
That's not possible. Okay. Well, the condition is you can drink as much drink as you like, but you have to finish in 1 hour. After 1 hour, you have to vacate the table. They give the certain conditions like this. Have you noticed?
Yes, sir.
So if we say that, okay, your drink is free, but you have only 1 hour time. Now everybody will say within 1 hour, some people will say, I can't drink more than 2 glasses of Coke. Somebody will say 3, somebody will say 1, but isn't now the amount finite? Is it if we fix the time, then the different people in our class today will say, I can drink maximum 2 glasses of Coke within this time. Another one will say, I'm not going to drink Coke at all. I hate Coke. So you see, we now although it was free, you didn't have to pay for the Coke, but the time was limited. So we experienced an environment where the time is limited, and we responded in another way, right? Okay. Now look at, we have two choices here, X and Y. Before we make a choice, we are experiencing an environment where we can either choose X or we can choose Y. The example that I gave in the video lecture was that X is Pepsi, Y is Coke. Our money allows us to buy any one of the two, but we cannot buy two at the same time. So what do? Don't we compare X and Y?
Sir, definitely, sir.
Because of scarcity. What is the scarcity? The scarcity is our income will allow us to have either X or Y. So when we make a decision, we find ourselves in this particular environment, and then we compare. Now, mathematically, that would be, if we find X is greater than Y, what is the consequence of the decision? We choose X over Y, right?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now, X greater than Y does not mean that we can numerically find out, that X is so and so better than Y. It can be better than Y for whatever reason. Okay, so if we see that X is better than Y, we choose X over Y. That means to get X, we sacrifice the chance to get Y. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. In that case, we sacrifice Y in order to get the benefit of X. Y is the opportunity cost of X.
Key.
Okay, Y is the opportunity cost of X. Now let me paraphrase it through a sentence. The cost of the opportunity to choose X is the cost of sacrificing Y. If we find X is better than Y, for whatever reason, given our income, we choose X over Y. In that case, can we say this thing, the highlighted part? The cost of the opportunity to choose X is the cost of sacrificing Y. Can we say this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is opportunity cost. Why does it arise? Because of scarcity. Why? What are the three dimensions of scarcity? The three dimensions of scarcity are limited resources, limited technology, and also limited time. Okay. Now you think about examples. Now, before we go to the next slide, how many choices did we have over here from which we could choose?
Two
Two.
choices.
Okay. In the real world, when we make a choice, do we confront only two choices, or there will be more than two choices?
Multiple choices.
More than.
In the real world, there is usually always more than two choices. So the simple thing is that we compared between X and Y. Before we came to BRACU University, which is University B, all of you must have had at least two other options, right? You could have done an
Right, sir.
MBA in another
Maybe.
university. You could have done something else. Instead of doing an MBA, you could have done another course. Instead of coming to BRAC or doing an MBA, you could have worked. There were thousands and thousands of options available for you before you made a decision to come to BRAC. So let us assume that there was three options. Now we are going to look at three. Instead of 3 and 4 are the same. Okay, opportunity cost, we are looking in the context of more than two options. Before you decided to do a master's at BRAC University, you had, say, three options, A, B, and C. They're the name of three universities, different programs. All these were available to you before you made that choice or you committed to come to BRAC University. But you cannot do all three at the same time. Do we agree? Can you do courses at these three universities at the same time?
No, sir. No.
No, sir.
We can't. That means we have to sacrifice two of them in order to get one of them. Just like the Coca-Cola and Pepsi example. But now we're going to rank. Okay, why do we rank? What's the objective of ranking? which we will find out
Choose the
later.
best one.
To
Huh?
make
Choose the best
rational
option.
decision.
Okay, who said the best option? Quite a few, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What happens if I just say the opposite? Ranking is also can also be made in order to identify the worst option.
So I think it's to make
true.
rational decision rather than.
Of course, we're going to make a rational decision, but everybody in this class so far has said we rank in order to find the best. What
So
happens
said
if I
to
say
make
we
rational
rank
decision.
in order to find the worst? Is this possible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, when we are looking at a basket of goods that give us pleasure, that make us happy, we want to find the best. So our ranking will start from best, go down to worst. Do we agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we are confronting a basket that's giving us pain, for example, expenditure for the household, for example, cost for the firm, will the ranking be from highest value to lowest value or from the opposite?
So the opposite, because we want to minimize cost.
Correct. So the thing is, when we rank, in this case, we are ranking from in descending order. That means we are identifying the best at the top and the worst at the bottom. Because A, B, and C, all three give us pleasure. But if A, B, and C were expenditures, whether that is financial expenditure, time expenditure, some people in this class are mothers. You also have, do we have a few mothers in the class? Are there anybody here who has little babies?
Sure, I am only.
Oh, you're the only one. Okay, so when you made a decision, you also had to calculate about your child, right?
Yes, sir.
So when we make decisions like this, we are calculating costs, something that we don't like. In that case, we will do the ranking reverse, ascending order. So in this case, we are making this particular ranking. We chose BRAC University first because we are here. So that's B. Second rank is A. Third rank is C. Now the question is, what is the opportunity cost? The opportunity cost is the next best alternative. What is the next best alternative over here?
A.
A. So A is the opportunity cost of choosing B. When we had only two, we chose X, we sacrificed Y. So what was the opportunity cost of X? Not choosing Y. The next best alternative, right?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But in the real world, we will never have only two options. We will always have more than two. Now, if somebody said, okay, my ranking is B greater than C greater than A. So since I chose B, what is my opportunity cost?
C.
C. Correct. Eito, C. Done? So opportunity cost is the next best alternative that was available before the decision, which we did not choose. That is the opportunity cost. So if we have only two options like X and Y, we chose X, Y automatically becomes the opportunity cost. But if we have more than two options, then we ask the person, rank them. They will be descending if they are things that we like. The ranking will be ascending if it is things that we don't like. Okay? None?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. Now, we've made the choice. We're at BRAC University. For how many of you is this your first semester?
Sir, mine.
Mine. This is my first semester. I have just got admitted.
Okay, lovely. Is there anybody in the class for whom it is their second or third semester?
Second semester, sir.
Yes, sir.
So some of you, okay, well, let's not talk about those for who it's a first semester. Let's talk about those who for whom it's a second semester. Now, once we've made the decision, do we enter in a new world, a new environment? We've entered BRAC.
Yes, sir.
Okay, before entering BRAC, we had options A and C, whichever way we ranked it, whether it was BAC or BCA. Do the two other options A and C now exist?
No.
No, no, sir.
That's known as sunk cost. Once we make a decision, we enter a new environment. Once we enter a new environment, whatever was available before making the decision is now vanished. We can't go back. That's why it's known as a sunk cost. Okay? So before we make the decision, we make 101 type of calculations whether this decision is going to be a good decision or a bad decision. Once we commit, then whatever was available before making the decision has gone. That's a sunk cost. Now, one thing is that economics does not discuss sunk cost. You might ask the question, why doesn't economics discuss sunk costs? Because sunk costs has no alternative with which we can compare. Now that we are in BRAC, can we compare our BRAC life with A and C that we sacrificed before making the decision?
No, sir.
That's why sunk cost has zero opportunity cost. We cannot compare our BRAC decision now because we are now in a new environment. Okay? All right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So once we make a decision, whatever happened before doesn't exist. So once we've, the text will also say the same thing. Once we've chosen B, which we have, A and C or C and A, whichever way your ranking was, doesn't exist anymore. You're in a new environment. Thus, the cost of choosing B over A or over C is now a sunk cost after choice because we cannot compare. Because of scarcity, we cannot choose ABC at the same time. Thus, we are forced to make a choice. Now you think about other examples. I've made the example of BRAC. You can think about other examples in the context of the place where you're working. Before making a decision, they think about the 300 types of things. But once they make the decision, it's gone. For example, say Novo Airways. Okay, they're going to buy a new fleet. They're going to buy 2 more aircrafts. Before making the decision, there was thousands of options. But once they decided, okay, we're buying 2 aircrafts, each one will be say $10 million. Okay, so we'll spend $20 million. Once they spent it, that money has gone down the drain because you can't go back to the previous situation where you could make a choice. Okay. All right.
All right, sir.
Okay. Now let's get to the next topic. What's the next topic? Incentives. Incentives is basically, I'm going to bypass this example. It's not a good example. That in a market setting, price is one of the biggest signals that determines how people will react. Over here, what happens? The price of fuel increases. In this budget, the government has declared, okay, the price of fuel means petrol, octane, diesel, whatever you're looking at. How will this decision influence choice of first-time buyers? When the price of fuel increases, there's 3 types of people on the market. Number 1, people who already own cars. Number 2, people who don't own cars, right? When the price of fuel increases, if the government increases the fuel from this particular budget, and they say, and the government says this price will hold for the next 2 years. This is the price of 1 liter of octane, 1 liter of diesel, 1 liter of petrol. There's 2 types of people on the market. Number 1, a group that has already bought a car. Number 2, a group that hasn't bought a car but is deciding to buy a car. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Now, the group that has already bought a car, are they more flexible in making a decision, or the group that hasn't bought a car, they are more flexible in making a decision?
Hasn't bought a car.
Hasn't bought.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is next week or the week after, we'll be confronting a concept called elasticity of demand. Over there, we'll see that in different environments or different situations, people are more, sometimes people are more flexible, sometimes people are less flexible. So let's look at this, where is it? Okay, so let's look at this concept. For first-time car buyers, they have two options. They can go for a fuel efficient car, which is 1500 cc and below. They can also go for a car that is more less fuel efficient. Okay, so if you're a first time car buyer, we have all agreed that you are more flexible in buying a car, right?
Yes, sir.
That later on, just keep it in your mind that this concept, we will say that your demand is more elastic. If you are already a car owner, okay, you can't you know that for the next few years excuse me, the cost of your maintaining the car has gone up. You can't there's nothing you can do now because you bought the car. And once you buy a car, it's like a fridge. Before the fridge came, people survived. But once you get used to a fridge, can you live without a fridge?
No, sir.
Never, sir.
Never, ever. But fridge is how old is the fridge? 150 years, 110 years. Before that, people used to live without fridges, right?
Yes, sir.
But once the people started to use fridges, they had no, their life became totally inflexible. They could not live without fridges. So these are the things that we're going to look at. That incentive means the price has gone up. Somebody finds an incentive to do something. Somebody finds a disincentive to do it. We're okay. What's the next one? Acha, this is just a technical part which we have already discussed. Do we agree that incentives is similar to the word encourage?
Yes, sir.
That means if we are looking graphically and we are looking at the vertical axis, incentive means going up, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
discourage means coming down. If our axis is the horizontal axis, then incentive means going from left to right. Our brains are programmed to see any kind of rightward horizontal movement as a positive sign. Any leftward horizontal movement as a negative sign, right?
Yes, sir.
So once we start doing theories and etc., what we will try to do is, if the price increases, see, demand responds in one way, supply responds in another way. If the price decreases, demand responds in one way, supply responds in another way. So the question that we want to ask is, when will incentive work? When will disincentive work? When will neither of the two work? I'm going to repeat myself again. This is a very important intuitive concept, but it's very simple. When will incentive work? When will disincentive work? When will neither work? Okay, my hand is like this. This is a balance. This hand is at the bottom, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
This means this hand is heavier than this hand, right? So when we see a balance looking like this, do we have an incentive to increase this hand?
No, sir.
So we have an incentive to increase this hand, disincentive to increase this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next step we see like this. The two hands still have not balanced. Okay, so we have an incentive to or a disincentive to change. Now, once we come here, when the two hands balance, do we have an incentive or disincentive to change?
No, sir.
No, sir.
That's this particular situation. We will see it in the next class, is known as equilibrium. When we find ourselves like this, unbalanced, then we have an incentive to increase one of them, a disincentive to increase the other. If it is like this, same situation. But once the two forces balance, we neither have an incentive nor a disincentive. When incentive or disincentive, neither of the two works, then we confront ourselves with a situation that's called equilibrium. Okay?
Okay, sir.
These things will be very evident once we start. Acha. Next concept is exchange. Exchange is nothing but a process through which good moves from A to B. Now, if I go downstairs, there's a grocery shop at the on our ground floor in our building. So if I feel like I want to have a Coke, how do I buy? How do I get the Coke? I don't show a dagger to the shop owner, and the shop owner gives me the Coke. There's an institutional setting. I give the money to a man. The man sees whether the money is the right money, and then the man gives me a bottle of Coke or drink, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we are all familiar with Robin Hood, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Robin Hood also used to have transactions with the rich people. He used to show, in those days, he didn't have, he used to show his gun or his dagger to a rich person, and the rich person would give him their money. Isn't that also a transaction? Isn't that also an exchange?
No.
No? Who said no?
That's it.
Who said no? It's not a exchange. Abu,
So I think everyone
Sir,
agrees
it's
it's not
no,
an
sir.
exchange.
also
For
you,
exchange, both party must agree.
both parties. That's why I asked the question like this. Robin Hood shows a dagger to a rich man. The rich man gives away all his possessions to Robin Hood. That's also an exchange, but that's not a happy exchange, right?
Sir, I think there is no trade-off.
If I forcefully take money from you, is that a happy exchange?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Never, no.
Never. If I go to a shop, I offer 15 taka, can I have a bottle of water? Then I happily give the money, and the person also happily sells the bottle of water to me, right?
Right.
But I can do the same transaction, the same exchange like Robin Hood. So exchange, there is a certain criteria that has to be maintained, which that other friend of ours said that it was what did you say? You used this particular word.
Hello, sir.
No, somebody said that he doesn't agree that it's an exchange. Robin Hood, what Robin Hood used to do.
Hello, sir. I have a question regarding this exchange, sir?
Actually, just a second, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm answering. The thing is, all the exchanges have to be voluntary. I am happily paying the money. The other person on the other side is happily giving me the good. Then the transaction will be a proper transaction. Okay. Now, in a market setting, the thing is, why do we go for a market setting? If I want a Coke, I just go to the shop and I buy a Coke. If we were living 500 years ago, there's no Coke in the next 10 miles. What do I have to do? I have to make my own Coke, right? Won't I have to make my own Coke?
Yes, sir.
And now I can make my own Coke. Maybe that will be much more delicious than the Coke that sells on the market. But if I end up doing everything that I want to consume on my own, is that more productive? Or I specialize in my particular skill, another person specializes in their particular skill, and then we meet in a market where we transact our skills. Isn't that more efficient?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we agree that that's more efficient, that also indicates another thing. What is that other thing? That other thing is markets encourage large-scale cooperation. Markets encourage large-scale production activities. Do we agree to that?
Yes, sir.
For example, the shirt that I'm wearing, I didn't make it. Somebody made it for me. I went to the shop, I bought it. Okay. Now, 500 years ago, there would not be a shop. Okay. So in a family, somebody used to make the shirts. Okay. 500 years ago, if I wanted to have milk, I would have to keep a cow. We don't need to do that now. Okay, so markets have two big advantages. Number one, it encourages large-scale cooperation. Automatically, this cooperation is happening through prices. And it also encourages large-scale production. which would never have been possible if we broke down and we tried to started doing all our things on our own. But the condition is that the transactions have to be voluntary transactions, unlike the Robinhood transaction. When seller wants to sell and the buyer wants to buy, they can come to an agreement which is then mutually beneficial. Okay, AJ, where is it? AJ, mutually beneficial. What does this mean? Mutually beneficial. I offer.
So mutual understanding.
Now, voluntary transaction is the first condition. You cannot force the seller to sell. You cannot force the buyer to buy. Okay. But mutual means both of them are happy at the same time.
Okay.
The seller knows that 15 taka is the price of the Coke. If he gets the 15 taka, he will be happy to give you his stock. The buyer also knows that 15 taka is the price of the Coke. So if he charges 16 taka, then the buyer is not happy. If he charges 14 taka, the seller is also not happy, right? If the price of the Coke is 15 taka, and if the seller is forced to sell at 14, then one side of the it's voluntary transaction, okay? But one side of the bargain is happy more than the other, right?
Right.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If the price of that Coke is 16 taka, where we know that is 15, then again one side of the transaction is happy, more happy than the other, right?
Very simple.
But if the price is 15 taka and the good is transacted at 15 taka, are both of them mutually happy now?
Happy. So
Okay, so if the Coke was sold at 16 taka, that is not a mutually beneficial transaction, although it was done voluntarily. If the
okay.
Coke is sold at 14 taka, that is also not a mutually beneficial transaction, although the transaction was done voluntarily.
Yes.
Okay? But once it's done at 15 taka, further improvement, further change is not possible. It becomes an equilibrium situation, just like the balance that we discussed a little while ago. Okay. And now, Miss Lydia, you wanted to ask me a question.
So you've answered it. You've answered
Yeah.
it already.
Now I'll
So-
address your question. What was your question?
Sir, you've answered it. I wanted to ask, does voluntary exchange connote with better off, which you've answered, which is mutual. So you've answered it already. So I'm
Oh,
clarifying.
so you
now.
got the answer to the question that you wanted to ask.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so when exchange is voluntary, everybody benefits. Then what happens? Social welfare is maximized. Okay, so or the people who wanted to sell shirts, the people who wanted to sell milk, the people who wanted to sell Coca-Cola, everybody's happy, the buyer's also happy. And then what happens? We also said in a market setting, large-scale cooperation and large-scale production is possible. So the social welfare is maximized. Now, when exchanges are voluntary, markets automatically solve three problems. The problems are what will be produced. That will be determined by demand. If people demand more Coke will be produced compared to other beverages. If people demand more meat will be produced more over time compared to vegetable and fish, etc. How will it be produced? That is a technological issue. The more efficient farms will produce it with the best possible technology. Now, who gets what? Does everybody see that I've highlighted this? Who gets what?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can see it, sir.
Oh, you can't see. Sorry, I'll do it again.
Sir, I can see, sir.
Is there somebody who didn't see this? Who gets what? This highlighted. Who didn't see this?
So we can see it, sir.
Okay, lovely. So who gets what? In a market setting, if I have more money, I have more access to technology, I have more access to the resources. On paper, this is perfectly all right. Okay, but if the good that we are talking about is a COVID vaccine, what will happen? I have money to pay for the COVID vaccine. Myself and my family will benefit. Another person or another group in the society doesn't have money to pay for the COVID vaccine. Okay, is that fair?
No, sir.
Okay, so market outcomes are efficient. I have money to buy the COVID vaccine, so I'll buy. What's wrong with that? If we were looking at the transaction of a, say, BMW car, a Jaguar car, I have money, I'll buy it. Nobody will question it because a Jaguar car is not a social good. Okay, but the COVID is a vaccine is a social good. It's a good that the society demands. So sometimes market outcomes may be efficient, but they may not be fair. We are going to look at that later on. Okay. Now, this one we said information before we started the concept of information, that what information do both parties have about the quality of the product. Are you familiar with the used car market, second-hand market of any good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in a second-hand market, who knows the actual quality of the product? The sellers or the buyer?
The
The
seller.
sellers.
Okay.
Seller.
So over here, it's unlike the Coca-Cola. Why is it unlike the Coca-Cola? It's unlike the Coca-Cola because in the Coca-Cola case, I knew exactly as a buyer what I'm getting. In the Coca-Cola case, the seller knew exactly what he was selling. So both the buyer and the seller have the same set of information about the actual quality of the product. But when we are going to a used car market or any used market, okay, the seller has more information, a better set of information about the actual quality of the car. This is known as asymmetric information. We are all familiar with a bell-shaped normal distribution, right? It looks like this.
Yes, sir.
So basically, what is a bell-shaped distribution? 50% of the data are on the left, 50% of the data are on the right. If the distribution is like this, we say that it's normally distributed. And if we plot it in a graph, it looks like a symmetric distribution, right?
Yes, sir.
In the context of information, if the buyer and the seller, they have the same set of information about the actual quality of the good, then it is symmetric. If in this case, the sellers know more than the buyers about the actual, it cannot be symmetric. It's asymmetric, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is one example. Another example is when in insurance market, you have companies that sell insurance. You have people or firms that buy insurance. Okay, now in an insurance market, who knows better information about the quality of the product, the buyer or the seller? I'm buying a health insurance. They ask me 101 questions. Are you a smoker? Do you drink? Do you stay up all night? Do you have blood pressure problem? Who knows more about this information than, isn't it the buyer who knows more?
Buyers.
Sellers.
Yes, sir.
Seller knows.
No, the buyer. The buyer
buyer.
knows more. Yes.
I'm buying a health insurance. I'm the consumer. Okay, I'm going to buy it.
No, sir, I said it as a joke because
Oh, you said it as
insurance
a joke.
companies, they defraud people who buy insurance.
Okay,
They
if you
find
said it as a joke.
technicalities not to pay them.
Yeah, right. So basically in an insurance market, we have another example of asymmetric information. The buyers of an insurance know the actual quality about themselves than the people who are going to sell. Now, used car markets sustain in the world just like insurance markets, although there is asymmetric information, right? So our question will be, how do they sustain? This is what we will try to do, look into this course, that if in a used car market, if it is always the same case that the users, so the owners of the car know the actual quality of the car, then good cars cannot be sold on a used car market, right? Okay, people of Dhaka.
Sorry, sir. Can you rephrase that last statement, please?
Okay, if in a used car market, Only the sellers know what the actual quality of the car is. Then as a buyer, will you have an incentive to offer a high price for a car? Because you don't know whether it's a good car or a bad car, right? If you go to a mobile phone market and you see on one side there's Samsung S series or iPhone, on another side you see a low quality phone, what will you do as a buyer? You will definitely have to offer a higher price for the better quality phone, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
Right.
That seller is never going to sell to you, and you will and from common sense you will offer a lower price for a lower end phone. But in a used phone market, if you don't know whether this is actual high-end product or low or not, will you have an incentive to offer a high price?
No, sir.
No,
That's
In
why
that
even
case,
No, sir.
in that market, if I want to sell high quality phones, will I have an incentive to sell in that market? I want to
No,
sell
sir.
I won't have.
No.
So what will happen in a used car market, if the sellers cannot credibly show that this is really good product, this is really bad product, only the bad products will sustain on the market. If asymmetric information is prevalent and cannot be checked. That means the buyers cannot credibly distinguish that this is a really good thing, this is not a good thing. Then only the bad products will be sold. This is known as the lemons market. We will be addressing this phenomenon in this course, and then we will see how this problem is addressed. Okay. Now the distribution, let us get back to this one. AJ, who gets what, okay, is very simple. In a market setting, here it is now. Yes. In a market setting, if I have money, I have access to resources. If we are transacting a BMW car, a Mercedes-Benz, a Jaguar, no problem, the rich will consume, the poor won't. But if we are talking about basic education, basic healthcare, or in this case, the pandemic, we're talking about the vaccine. Would it be fair? Would it be a fair distribution to see that the rich have access to the vaccine and the poor don't?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No.
In
Not
that
at all.
case, markets are always efficient because transactions are done voluntarily, transactions are mutually beneficial. But when we look at the total outcome of all these transactions, sometimes these transactions may not be fair according to the norms of a society. Bangladesh is not a rich country, but Bangladesh does offer free primary education up to class 8. If Bangladesh was a little bit more rich, the education would have been offered for another few years, like other countries. Because every society has an ethical code of conduct that certain goods have to be ensured for everybody. Basic healthcare, basic education, some basic infrastructure. Okay, so the thing is, we are not going to discuss this distribution, but we just keep into our minds that sometimes market transactions may not be fair. Now with that, I come to the end of part 1. I think we deserve a break. Does everybody agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because
Okay, sir.
I'm also getting very thirsty, and after talking for such a long time. So on the clock right now it's 8:45. We'll meet at 8:55. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Thanks, sir.
I'll stop.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hello.